Before going farther in developing ethical standards, it is important we understand why we sometimes are not ethical, when our actions run contrary to law, morality, or ethical standards in many cases, perhaps most cases. It all depends on what risks we are willing to take in regard to the reward we think we will have. So I want to open with a quote from the financial wizard Warren Buffett, who has said, "Risk comes from not knowing what you are doing." In this section, I want to try to understand why we do or do not know what we are doing when we follow or break moral standards, or why we obey or break the law, and in so doing, pose the possibility that ethics may once again have the potential to be different. In the short run, any behavior might be successful. Punishment follows the crime, but seldom immediately. Whether we cheat, lie, or steal depends on how high the stakes are in relation to our needs. Using our driving habits again as an example. What do you do, for instance, driving past a school's reduced speed zone on a holiday when you believe the school is closed? Or do we stop at a red light as a courtesy to those who have a green light? Or because if we don't, we could get a ticket or get our car into an accident and be found we are the ones at fault? I think the answer lies in what do you do at 1 a.m. waiting at a long red light with a no turn on red sign when there is no traffic coming in either direction? Would you take the right-hand turn? And then what would you do in those same circumstances, but when a police car is also parked at the intersection? When the need or pleasure to be derived is much greater than the risk, we might choose to do it. And when it is less, we prefer not to do it. So obedience for some of us is the economic decision of sorts. Everyone has a price. Everyone has that risk and reward threshold somewhere. This pertains to morality and the laws that come from it. Morals, law, and codes of conduct, including ethical codes of conduct, are all standards that the superior force sets for the group. Rather than balancing risk and reward, can ethics perhaps create a relationship that focuses on reward in relation to opportunity? Let's go back to the Golden Rule. As we learned it in kindergarten, we remember, do unto others as you would have others do unto you. Here we see the potential for two positives, quid pro quo. I will do for you what I would like done for me. Respect me, I respect you. The unspoken part of this relationship is, of course, if you do not do what I like, I'm not going to keep associating with you. As we continue to do positively toward others, we will expect them to reciprocate, or we will eventually not deal with them at all. Positive plus positive creates a continuously growing surplus, so to speak. There are those who have tried to improve upon the Golden Rule by creating the Platinum Rule. Do unto others as they would have you do unto them. This, unfortunately, is nonsense. Since we have seen, through history, this would lead to subjugation and tyranny by the selfish few. In fact, the Golden Rule is so perfect it is not restricted to a single culture or civilization. It is the one constant throughout the religious and cultures that has survived and thrived. Its universality in itself is a lesson in how continually growing positive upon positive relations ultimately leads to increasingly successful societies. Jesus in Matthew states, "All things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so them. For this is the law and the prophets." And no doubt Jesus was echoing his own Jewish heritage from the Talmud. What is hateful to you, do not to your fellow men. That is the entire law. All the rest is commentary. Half a millennia before Christ, Confucius stated, "Do not unto others that you would not want done to yourself." From Islam we have, "No one of you is a believer until he desires for his brother that which he desires for himself." And from Buddhism we have, Hurt not others in ways that you yourself would find hurtful. I want to suggest the growth of civilization was not because we stopped doing wrong, but that we continued to do more and more right to and for each other. Slowly but inevitably, right builds upon itself, and the whole exceeds the powered, selfish individuals as the group becomes tribes, villages, cities, city-states, and ultimately countries, and maybe even a global village. Going back to colonial times in America, King George III could not imagine the colonies successfully revolting because he viewed them as 13 distinct little countries similar to the countries of Europe, often settled with different religions, religious sects, and populated by different nationalities. Then, in a world-changing moment, during the First Continental Congress held in Carpenter's Hall in Philadelphia, Patrick Henry pointed to an extraordinarily different direction for America when he said, "Where are your boundaries now? I am not a Virginian. I am an American." If that way still exists, could continents, hemispheres, or a whole good earth be next? Regardless of what the future holds for civilization and humanity, the shift from not doing wrong to doing right will become increasingly important. Rather than following what thou shalt not do, doing what you should do for the whole community makes a huge difference in the progress of the world. Here we change the entire risk-reward scenario from a negative to a positive. We do not have to fear the risk of consequences of doing good if the reward for doing good is good in return. This can be the foundation of our personal ethics, and thus also the positive impetus behind all professional and corporate ethics. We do not avoid doing bad things. We do good things for everyone within our circle of influence, and thus we reap the reward for that risk. And it is a risk, because doing good is not a walk down easy street. There will be pain and struggle along the way. Doing good does have its own challenges. So our closing reality check. Let's turn to a great man who undoubtedly knew suffering himself. It was Martin Luther King who pointed out, "Human progress is neither automatic nor inevitable. Every step toward the goal of justice requires sacrifice, suffering, and struggle. The tireless exertions and passionate concern of dedicated individuals." That is worth thinking about before we turn to our next section on morality, law, and ethics. If, in fact, personal ethics can create real gain that just following morality and law cannot.